Hi folks, welcome to our weekly chat about local history. I'm Robert Lowell Goller. As always, thank you for your support of this project. Getting a lot of feedback, which is great, and I'm way behind on our topics. I wish I could do this every single day, but that's a good problem to have, so thanks for that. I was chatting this week's topic. I was chatting with someone, and it was brought up again. It's brought up at this time of year, this topic idea. It is someone had heard, or a few people actually have brought this up to me. They have heard an old story that they used to take dynamite and blow up the ice jams in Tannery Brook and Cazenovia Creek in East Aurora to get the ice moving because the ice would get jammed up as it does almost every year. This year we actually are. It seems like we're doing pretty lucky. We are pretty lucky this year as not having too many problems. But I saw on the news last week as the temperatures were going up, and as the ice was melting, and it goes down the creeks, and it often there are certain spots that seem to be a problem. South Buffalo, along the creek there. But here in East Aurora, we have had similar problems with Tannery Brook into Cazenovia Creek, where the ice jams up. Well, the solution to the problem back in the 1930s, 40s, even into the 50s, was to just blow it up. They would take dynamite, and yes, it's true. So it's not an old part of local lore, an unfounded story that has been passed along. They actually did use dynamite to blow up the ice jams and get the ice moving. Now, dynamite was used for a lot of things, and actually, if you look in old newspapers, and I am going to write about this, there's a lot of information. Probably maybe next year around this time of year I'll write about it and include it in a book that I'm putting together. But I want the timing to be right, of course. But I've done a lot of research on this in anticipation of writing about it. And there would be people, and you might have seen these in old movies, old television shows about the 1800s into the 1900s, where there would be people whose occupation was to dynamite things, to blow things up. And they would have ads in the newspaper, and the Easter Advertiser actually has ads in the paper of people who would dynamite things for you. Namely, farmers would call these folks to blow up old tree trunks after trees were the stumps in the ground. So after the trees were cut down and they'd have these stumps, they wouldn't have stump grinders necessarily. They would have these people come in, and professionals that apparently knew what they were doing, and put the dynamite in and blow up the stumps out of the ground. And there were ads in the newspaper for this into the 1930s, 1940s. Well, so it was a normal thing. That was how things were taken care of. They would build actually ditches using dynamite. They would blow things up, and we know that they would do the same thing with building roads and things. But every farmer needs an irrigation ditch. They would call the guy in to come in and blow up to create the ditch. Use dynamite to make it easier to do. So it was a normal thing. So what they would do around this time of year, and of course we're practically, it feels like summer out there today, at least late spring. But as the ice on the creeks would start to break away and cause ice jams, here in East Aurora, the village crews, the village Department of Public Works crews would go out and blow up the ice in the creek and send the ice down. Now, in East Aurora, this wasn't unique to East Aurora. It was done in other towns as well that had the creeks, namely West Seneca and into Buffalo as well. So throughout the 1930s, 40s, especially in the newspaper, you would read about the Department of Public Works articles about them having to go out and use dynamite on the ice to get it moving along. Now, there were a couple, as one can imagine, there were problems with this. Some more serious problems than others. A big problem was that people were often not expecting this, so it would scare the living daylights out of people to have the dynamite going off right in a residential area. There were houses all around there, and it was namely under the bridges. So Whaley Avenue, Maple Street, they would get rid of the ice jams there. And there are houses around there. Well, actually, in some cases, newspaper articles, the village board minutes were a good source of information, is they would find out that this revealed that some homeowners were bringing, in some cases, legal action against the villages or the towns, even in West Seneca, for damage to their properties. They were claiming that windows were shattered, and other things. So, and then the newspapers articles there would be a debate. People would be coming to the village board meetings complaining about a lack of notice, but just a big thing was window shattering, things being knocked off the walls, property damage, and some people were claiming issues with their foundations, things like that, to that degree. So that was one problem. Another was there was a safety issue, and in fact, East Aurora, the village of East Aurora, lost an employee due to this dynamiting of the ice jams, and his name was Cornelius George, and I was asked about him every couple years. I'm asked about him, and actually people pass a story down about how a gentleman had passed away. Actually, they had never found his remains, and from falling off the ice jam and not being seen again, and that is true. So there were articles in the Easter Advertiser. It happened in March of 1950. And Mr. George was working for the Village of East Aurora Department of Public Works. They were working in the creek to get rid of the ice jams, and he went missing. He went under the water and for weeks in the Easter Advertiser they were talking about how they were searching for him, and they never did find him, as far as I know. And I have talked to people, family members who are still around today. And so he was a person, he was a person that's not just a story. This actually did happen. And his name was Cornelius George, and he lived on Sycamore Street. And he did pass away from, as they were trying to clear the ice jams in the creek. So the job to get rid of ice jams was a dangerous one. In addition to the fact that it caused inconvenience and property damage as well. So this happened in 1950. Well, they continued to use, according to the newspaper, continued to use dynamite to get rid of the ice jams for several years. But at some point, looking through the old East Aurora Village board meeting minutes, some residents had come in complaining about Trannery Brook flooding, and the ice jams that were occurring, and village board members were saying, we need to come up with a different way. We're not going to use dynamite. So they were veering away from the dynamite in the 1950s. A lot of communities were finding new ways to take care of the ice jams, but here in East Aurora, a big reason for the change, the switch over to not wanting to use dynamite anymore, was the fact that they had lost an employee during the process of the ice jams being taken care of. And again, in the newspaper, volunteers all throughout East Aurora were dispatched to try to find him. And they said hundreds of volunteer firemen, police, and even civilians took part in the search. And he was working around the Maple Street Bridge. That's where it occurred, and they were trying to break the ice jams. And they would use dynamite, yes, but they would also try to do it in other ways, like physically try to break the ice jam. And it was just a dangerous activity to try to do that. And it's hard to picture, Tannery Brook seems small, but in the wintertime you go down there, and the water does move pretty quickly, and one false move and you could end up in the water. And in the case of Mr. Cornelius George, and he was 61 years old, that's what happened. So it was a dangerous proposition. So yes, to answer the question that people have been asking, we did use dynamite to break up the ice jams. We don't necessarily do that anymore. And dynamite was a solution to lots of things. Again, the tree stumps, people would cut a tree down and you need to get rid of the stump, and they would just blow it out of the ground. And this is shown in the newspaper. You would not see ads for a person to come dynamite something as much as you would back in the 1930s and 40s, they veered away from using dynamite as a solution. It's one for a lot of problems, including the ice jams. It's sort of interesting, how today we do things differently with new technology and just being aware of the dangers of things. They used to use gas to get rid of mosquitoes. They would just go down the street with blowtorches and blow mosquitoes out of trees and things, and street lamps, and chemicals that they would use just going down the street. They would just burn the mosquitoes alive. We wouldn't do that today. It's just a different way of doing things, and similar to the dynamite. We would not use dynamite today for something they would routinely use dynamite for back less than 100 years ago. So again, thank you for those questions. Great question, great idea. We are through a warm stretch. Speaking of the spring thaw, we don't have much snow or ice left. But from a historical standpoint, this is just a teaser. We're going to get more snow. We're going to get more cold snaps. So history does show that this is a fake spring that we're having right now. So thanks for joining me. As always, thank you for bringing the ideas, the comments. I will be writing about this topic either for my monthly newspaper column or for an upcoming books that I'm working on, book projects. Thank you for these ideas. Thank you for tuning in. Again, all these videos are available on YouTube if you just search for Robert Lowell Goller. Facebook is going to be getting rid of, starting in July, they're going to be getting rid of videos that are live videos that are older than 30 days. So what's going to end up happening is I'm hoping people who want to watch old videos will be linking to the YouTube channel where they'll be forever, because it's a great archive, I think, of everything we've talked about in the past, all the topic ideas from these videos. So we'll probably be relying a little more on YouTube for that, since Facebook is changing how it does things. Again, if you have any ideas, topic ideas, pop them into the comments or send me a private message. As always, thank you for keeping history alive. I am Robert Lowell Goller. I am the Town and Village Historian, but these videos and a lot of my research are not officially connected to my duties as Town and Village Historian. Again, thanks for joining me. We'll see you next time. Take care.